Oh, it's taking a second. Hello, everybody. We are now live. So it's Thursday. It's 12 o'clock. It is time for the Green Umbrella Live Lunch. And yeah, I'm like catching my breath. I've done my usual, like on a call, jumping off one thing onto the next. And so I'm feeling a little bit frazzled. But it's okay because we have a guest this week that is always someone that is so full of energy I can just take a rest, and that's the fantastic Clare Wight from Clarity Appointments. How are you doing, Claire?
Morning. Thanks for inviting me.
You're very, very welcome. Very welcome. So Mark isn't with us today, unfortunately. He is absolutely buried in design work and websites at the minute, so we thought we'd give him a bit of time back in his diary. So you've just got the lovely Green Umbrella ladies and the fantastic Clare Wight this week, but it's okay because one of the things we're going to talk about this week is collaboration. And I've heard quite a few people already in the last week or so talking about how they really think that this is the year they want to be collaborating or working on stuff with other people. As many of you know, we work with a lot of independent recruiters, and there's some recruitment groups I'm in on Facebook, and they're talking about like, how can we work together so that everybody wins? So I do really think it's not just like one or two people saying it, there's this real trend. But Claire, you're kind of ahead of the curve, aren't you?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like this should have been happening for years. It's kind of strange, isn't it, that it's taken a pandemic for us all to realise that we should all be supporting each other a little bit more. But maybe it's because the pace of life has slowed down a bit, for many of us anyway. So, I mean, like you, I network quite a lot, and so in some way or another, I guess we've all collaborated for a number of years, but it's just felt with a bit of reflection in 2020 that we should be doing more of it. And it's harder remotely. We're all working in back bedrooms. Well, a lot of us are. And collaboration is much trickier. I'm not a fan of doing stuff on Zoom, for example. I don't know about you, you've done an awful lot of attempted support and collaboration in rooms where there's sort of 30 people, and it's near on impossible no matter how much you'd like to. So really just last year with an idea really just came about of how can we do something where we support people in our area of expertise by incorporating other people that we know. And so instead of constantly sending sales messages in a time when people aren't buying stuff, using our expertise instead to get together with other people and provide them with a broad range of knowledge which might support their day-to-day business. Because we work with a lot of small businesses like you do, and we're all sending independent messages in inboxes because nobody was able to be gotten hold of on the phone because we were all working from home. I don't know, I've got so much in terms of emails, people I've never heard of bombarding us with emails. Really, really frustrating. And it's how do you keep in contact with people who you can't reach by phone? And you don't want to be one of 30 emails a day, because you just delete them, don't you? So it was just a thought really, talking to people like you and saying how can we stay relevant and help people moving forward. So that's what
from that, you got a gang of people together and have produced something that's launched this week, which is so we've called it SME Monthly. So this is I want to say it's contributors who are bringing you the latest and greatest from their independent industries. And obviously, Claire, you're a contributor.
Modestly, of course. The best in our field.
Absolutely. We're all thought leaders here. But no, in all seriousness, so this is it's a once a month email, and it is you've brought some professionals together in varying fields that are kind of like, this is the most important thing. You know, I've kind of seen it as, if I could only tell people one thing this month, what would it be?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm contributing to the article. So
perfect. Because yeah, absolutely, because I think this is what's so evident, is getting all these messages in our inbox every day, is that people don't know how to communicate by email. And also what happens is a lot of it becomes all about frequency. I've got to send an email every month, every week, and if you're sending one on your own, how do you make that really interesting? So you tend to fill your article with all sorts of stuff, and whether you've got anything to say or not. So this is more about bringing 6 people together who cover a broad range of specialisms and have got, as you put, one important message. If I could teach you one thing in my area this month, what would it be? And we're all different. So some of us like to do videos, some like to do blogs. Our styles are all very different. The point being that every month there should be something, at least 1 or 2 things in that article that the reader is going to grab hold of and think, this is relevant to me today. Or not. And it might be that that's a particular business problem that they've got, or there's some statutory changes that they need to be made aware of. And so you're right, it's just bite-sized chunks from each of us, so that it's a really interesting read, rather than sending a mail shot out somebody to read in the hope of kind of educating and not necessarily being relevant to them at that current time. Somebody might not be recruiting and won't really want to open my email and not really interested in anything I've got to say, but goodness, they've got marketing they need to resolve, they've got HR problems. I mean, everybody's had HR problems, for goodness sake. And not having an HR person would have been ridiculous, but we've got a super HR professional as well. And so hopefully we're in inboxes for people who have got problems that need solving, and one of us, or maybe all 6 of us, have got the solution to that problem at any time.
I think the important thing to know, I'm just going to put up on screen as well, it's in the comments, but just the link there for if people want to sign up so that they're receiving it. The important thing is, you get a lot of stuff like this where people they've paid to be part of it. So, you know, they're paying money to put an article into your inbox. But in this scenario, that's not the case. Everyone that's contributing is, you know, is totally free of charge. They're doing it to offer value. Because you've handpicked people that you've worked with and that you know well, so that you know it's going to be people that are, well, you know, we don't sell in that way, but, you know, you've made sure it is a 100% valuable resource. And I think that's really tough right now. People don't want to, people know they need to give in order to get business, but everyone is, I don't know, they're just kind of a bit more precious about their activities, aren't they, I think? And that idea of giving value and giving stuff away, I think people have almost closed down a little bit on.
And everyone I've picked, every individual I've spoken to who's on board, I've picked for multiple reasons. One, because I know them and trust them and I've used them, but also because they're already giving stuff away. They're already in the culture of being supportive. They don't charge for everything. They're used to, you know, we're used to picking up the phone. I thought about it earlier, actually. Every time you have a communication with someone, you're offering advice and support. I don't charge for your time. You know, have you thought about doing X? If that doesn't work, come back to me. Or hang on a minute, I've got a blog or a video I did that will help you with that area of your CV. Don't worry that it's called, you know, how to write an FD's CV and you're not an FD. Let me send it to you. There's a couple of tips in there which would be really useful. And so we're always giving away free resources. It comes naturally. So this isn't a leap for any of us, actually, but the leap is doing it together in one place so that it's a really interesting resource. But yeah, you're right. I think nobody wants to be sold to. But we do want to continue to learn, all of us. And every one of you, I've called on in 2020 for an ear, for a piece of advice.
Who's in the Super Six then? Who's so obviously I know Christina is.
I love that, the Super Six. Okay, well, myself and Christina. So myself doing recruitment, Christina doing marketing, clearly. We have Francis West from West Tech doing IT, but his specialism within IT is cybersecurity. Catherine Duff.
We are going to get Francis on this at some point, but
Are
he's
you?
so scary. People may never tune in again.
Yeah.
No, I know. I get WhatsApp messages from other recruiters who know him, and they'll message me literally, "Who's that scary man in security?" And I'm like, "Oh, Francis, I'll send you his details." He's brilliant, and his
so good.
Stuff. He's always got training resources that he sends out. And we've got Catherine Duff in HR, one of the ladies, she's been this year. And we have Jackie Kemp from she does wellness, so her offering's quite broad, but her specialism is in wellness. So that's the five of us, and then my brain's gone completely blank. Christina, and this is the trouble with live, isn't it? Nick Tiley, finance director. I've known Nick for years. So he's offering stuff on the finance side as well. So
it is literally, it's like it's touching everything. Like if you needed a board for your business, it's like there's someone in every seat in this email. And I think when you first, so Claire sent me a little video, basically sort of, essentially pitching the idea, what did I think? And I was like, oh my God, this is brilliant. I have to be part of it. It is, just be able to get that information bite size once a month.
Yeah, well, to be a small business owner as well, you've got to wear all those hats, and they're all areas. Wrong, you're in big trouble. You get hacked, yeah, that's your business gone. Marketing is key, particularly if you're not so strong in sales. And marketing's where it's at anyway. People don't want to be sold to. Recruitment, I know I feel a little bit redundant. Moment, but it's critical to get that right. HR, goodness knows if you get HR wrong. And wellness, Jackie's wellness stuff is fantastic, and I think we're probably more aware of that than ever. And if you can't get your finances right, it's going to be pretty tricky to navigate 2021. So Nick's fab, and we will probably get some other guests as well. I mean, when I approached Nick, for example, he had some names of some other people he wanted to get involved who will do some guest slots. So it will be really interesting, and it will be constantly evolving. But I think the six of us cover all those important departments in an SME. Excellent.
Claire, will it be sort of like bullet points within each section, or is it sort of like a mini blog? Or I'm just curious how it's going to work, basically.
Yeah, so we've all done a bit of a mix. I lazily did a video for mine.
That's it.
Well, you never use lazy and video.
Yeah. No, that's a good thing.
There's a time, lazy or genius, I don't know. But so I did. Francis does a lot of video as well, but I'm more comfortable doing blogs. So again, it's mixing it up a little bit because the reader will be different each time. And someone might really dislike videos, actually. It's where you're watching it or listening to it as well. If you're sitting in an office, maybe you don't like videos, so we need to be mindful of that. So I shall mix up my my content as well. But it's keeping it fresh. We're all doing what we're comfortable in. Francis does loads, and he's really, really natural and pretty scary on video.
I'm really curious why Francis is so scary. I've never
because he's delivering stuff that's just jaw-dropping. So he'll go on the dark web and find being sold about you on the dark web, and I can tell you now, that's
quite scary in itself.
As a person, he's lovely. He's just such a nice guy. He's like a gentle giant because he's huge as well. He's really tall. But what he knows and how he knows how to do things, like what you say, kind of on the dark web, he's what they call a white hat hacker.
Yes.
But yeah, he basically shows you how to keep your business secure, especially because if you're working from home, you kind of have less less protection, and everybody's on your Wi-Fi, especially if you've got homeschooling and things like that. So yeah, he's not scary, but his subject matter can be.
He's got some really amazing videos, some videos that he'll show you, which are just, you know, kind of, it makes you think very, very much. I've never come off a webinar or a meeting or ever seen a LinkedIn post from him and not thought, right, I need to add that. Yeah. I need to add that to my to-do list. Even this morning, he was sharing how to not just block, but report spam text messages. So I've just done that today, but it goes by where I don't think, right, I need to be really careful about that. And I've bought his tech. He's got a little, you know, nice piece of tech which is protecting us working from home, because you're quite right, scammers are having a field day with working at home. But yeah, I mean, he won't have anyone log onto your home Wi-Fi. He's smart, and he's a really good example of the 6 people that we have, which is everybody is really, really, you know, knowledgeable in their area, in their field, but they're also they're talking to people more widely. So I think that our knowledge is that much broader. We're very curious, and that's the kind of people that you want, not someone that's not really keeping up to speed within their own field or awareness of what else is coming.
Yeah. So Claire, when you were sort of talking about like different people in different areas, you made a comment I'd like to pick up on, and that was that you feel like you're redundant. I'm like,
well, okay, it was a very flippant comment.
Recruitment.
I'll explain.
Hiring, isn't it? It's just so much about people.
I'm just being honest, is that, you know, people did hire in 2020 and they're hiring now, but they're not hiring in the volume that they once were. But it's more, it's probably my job is different. So whilst we don't have the volume, we're working much more on an exclusive basis with more SMEs, and we love them because they work in partnership generally. They're very respectful of what we do. They listen to what we have to say, and we get the hiring right first time. So although we're not doing so much in terms of volume, we've been able to give a really special bespoke service, and then we've got clients that return, but also getting recruitment wrong is incredibly expensive. So it's got to be done right. But yes, I mean, there's no doubt that we have more candidates, more people job seeking than we have jobs. But that will change. I think 2021 is truly a year for opportunity, but we've got a little time to wait until we get down the roller coaster again.
So what's interesting for me is that hanging out with recruiters in the way that we do, for the last, I don't know, 3-4 years, definitely, maybe even longer, we've referred to recruitment as a candidate-driven market. What that means, so people watching that are not recruiters, what that means is basically, if you're using a recruiter and they give you the best possible candidate and you sit on your hands for a week, you're going to have lost them because someone else they're going to have snapped them up. And this has been an issue that a lot of recruiters have been having to deal with over the last 3-4+ years.
Yeah.
Right now, yes, there's a load of candidates on the market, and you know, if you're in the air saying you've got a vacancy, you're going to get an influx of people. But it is still very much a candidate-driven market. You're going to use people like Claire to find the best people. And again, if you sit on your hands, you're going to lose them.
Well, a typical call, you see, if somebody's not used an agency or may have used one, but not us, will say, oh, no, who's on your books? I need let's pick, I mean, I have had this year, or past year, sorry. You know, I need a financial controller. Who have you got? A financial controller, who have you got? And they're not sitting on my database. They might do, I might know the perfect person, but, you know, what does your business do? What's its size? What are the current challenges? Where are you headed? What does that person need? What interpersonal skills do they need? What technical capability? there are so many questions. You know, just labelling a financial controller and sticking a salary range into a database. Oh goodness, it's way more complex than that. I wish it was as simple as just pushing a button. And we do, of course, we've over the many years we've been going, of course, we've accumulated information on people that we stay in touch with. And I might have the perfect person. I filled a job in June for a financial controller, somebody that I've actually known for years as a client, but didn't know as a candidate, but his situation had changed. But very likely, if you want X, I'll have to go and get it for you, because you're right, it is about, I use the word fit very carefully, but it needs to be someone who's right for your business now and where your business is headed. That's not just scanning a CV, that's getting to know individuals and find out whether they're suitable for you. And that's very time consuming, and there will be a very, very, very few people who will meet your requirements. So still candidate driven.
Absolutely. Do you know, I think I'm going to say something now that you might say, actually, no, Christina, you're wrong. I think that businesses, they want to grow to a point where they've got a marketing department, and in the interim, they'll use us, okay, until their business is at that size. But I don't think people think about their recruitment in the same way. So we've got, like, you know, massive global companies that have got, you know, they've got an HR department, and then they've got a talent acquisition department that is completely separate. You know, they have close relationships, but essentially it's a separate function within the business that is essentially, for want of a better phrase, their internal recruitment agency. Yeah. But business owners don't think about recruiters in that way at this point. And yet, you know, what you're offering, that kind of like retained model, is the perfect answer to that. So how do employers need to, what's the shift in their thinking? What's the benefit for them in terms of working with a recruiter in that way?
Well, it's thinking outsource model. You know, we don't charge a retainer. Maybe I should, but we don't charge a retainer. But let me get to know you. Let me get to know your business, and trust me. Let me show you what I can do, and then you just come to me when you need something. And we talk, going back to what we were talking about in terms of collaboration. I specialise in accountancy. We're more than capable of doing some of the generalist stuff. I actually found about 80 gamers this summer. Never done that before. It was a lot of fun. And just what I needed, just the tonic I needed this summer, because it was really fast paced and a completely different bunch of people. But if the client that I'm getting to know or got to know over a long period of time doesn't need me for a particular vacancy that I specialise in, I'll know someone. There's a really good chance. If you looked at my LinkedIn profile, I think I don't know the stats, but I suspect that certainly probably as much as 50% plus of my connections are other recruiters. I've been talking to another recruiter on email here. I've got 3 WhatsApp groups of recruiters. You know, we, despite what people might think, because we're hugely competitive, we do support each other. That, again, more in last year than any other year. And I know people who, so if you want someone to work in a warehouse, I'm not your girl, but I know someone who can help. And that's through membership organisations initially, and then you get to know people quite well, and you learn to trust them, and you can recommend them. Sometimes we'll work face to face with the client, and we'll outsource that bit in the background, and we'll work with the client and get that agency to source. But more often than not, you've got to trust people, and I'd rather that client actually, then I gave them a phone number and an email address, you know, speak to Christina, speak to Amanda, whatever, you know, go and talk to them directly, because for them to fulfill your vacancy, rather than going through me and me passing on Chinese whispers what it is you need in an area I don't normally work in, why don't the 2 of you talk together and let them support you in that area of your business? So it's further collaboration, and I don't want to get dragged into something that's not my core business, because it detracts me from my day-to-day business needs and what I'm looking forward to in the future. I don't want to get involved in that. But there's money to be made, and there's a super client saying, I trust you, introduce me to someone that likewise that I can trust in another sector. So
absolutely. Do you know, you raise a really valid point as well, in the fact that you don't want to get caught up in the other stuff. So it's like, I'm a real, you know, I keep saying to myself, stay in your lane, stay in your lane, stay in your lane, because I could get really excited. I could start advertising for someone that does SEO and build that into our services. Yeah. You know, there's so much stuff we could do and build in, but I don't get excited about SEO. I'm not passionate about it. It's like,
no, stick with what you're good at. And we tend to the stuff that we're good at, we tend to love, and vice versa, don't we? We deliver. Early last year, when we went down into lockdown, our sector, and I'm sure many other industry sectors were the same, probably your own, we were being told, we were getting all these messages about, oh my goodness, it's this abomination is your sector. Why don't you retrain and become an expert in something else? And it's like, really? I've got all this experience, and you're just saying basically there's no market for it in March, April. There was no market for it in March and April. But just me, as you say, stay in your lane. What we do will still be needed in 12 months' time. Continue to learn in that area, continue to build those relationships in that area. I think a lot of people, well, I know another recruiter rang me and spent an hour on the phone one Friday afternoon and said, I've paid loads of money to retrain to become an expert in IT because IT is really big this year and I'm really not comfortable with it. And I don't know how I can become an expert in 3 months. And I said, well, no, neither do I. And are you enjoying it? No, not really. Yeah. So, you know, it's kind of, this was the time to just get better at what you did. And yes, you've changed tack and you needed to, you know, improve areas and look at your tech and build your external relationships. But I think to suddenly try and become an expert overnight because your market's ruined, I just don't know where those people are 6 months on, because it's kind of you stop working in the area that you're really good at and where you're known and respected and trusted, and you've gone off in this direction to try and become an expert overnight in an area that you can't compete in.
Do you know, everyone was using that word pivot, okay? And it's, you know, sometimes I had something happen last week, which I won't go into now, but it's one thing was said to me and I heard something very different. And I'm very aware of the gap between the two, okay? But I kind of feel like the same thing happened. People were talking about pivoting and people heard, go off piste.
Yeah. And like, I also had pivoting and ka-ching, because there was a lot of people who were making a lot of money out of you pivoting. Maybe that's very cynical of me, but if I'd got a real interest in going into IT recruitment, I'd have done it a long time ago. And I think you have to be realistic, is that, you know, if you're very, very late to the party, if you're not able to change tack very, very quickly, you're totally wasting your time. And you're right, the message was misunderstood, because I'm talking about this individual that rang me. I thought that she was a classic, really. It was that paralysis when we went into lockdown in March and April and we didn't have any work, or so little, it was hardly any to speak of. You get that tight chest, the paralysis. Oh my God, I'm going to lose my business and I've got no money coming in. And you do not make good decisions when you're in that state of mind. That was not the time to make big decisions. That was the time to go for a walk. It was time to break your day down into manageable chunks and do what you could towards that goal that you'd always had. It was the time to pick up the phone to other people, you know, like you, like Francis, you know, what can I do to improve this area of my business? It's something I've been wanting to do for ages. I now have the time, and I made the decision to do it when my head was in a good place, but now I've got the time to do it. But to make important decisions when you don't know where you're going to be next week, I don't think it's wise.
It's kind of a recognised thing, is in psychology, is it? If you're faced with a scary situation or a change situation, you fight, flight, or freeze.
Yes.
So, and there's
I did a lot of freezing. I don't know about you, but I'm not sure how many billable hours I did in March and April. But I similarly, I didn't panic and go, right, now I need to enrol on a course to become an expert in something I have absolutely no interest in. And Christina, you're right. You could learn, and you could do it now, learn alongside what we're doing day to day to be better at another area. But if it doesn't give you any joy, why do it?
I think that's the thing. When like every year there's so many articles like, what are the trends going to be in insert industry here, in insert the following year there. And I did one as well. What are the must-haves for 2021, or I don't know, that might have been the title for the previous year. I can't remember now, but I don't know what I'm doing. But one of the things I put in there is that you've got to reconnect with why you're doing what you do. You've got to reconnect with what you want to be known for, and make sure you're communicating that within your marketing. Because again, if you'd have started doing warehousing jobs and started posting on LinkedIn, on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, about that instead, then actually it just creates confusion around your brand.
It does. You have to have a very clear message. I used to do an awful lot of networking outside the recruitment field. I now only network with recruiters, but I used to go to lunches and dinners and evenings, and I'd pitch up. And around the time that I started doing that, we broadened. We were accountancy specialists, and I fought with my team. It'd be, a client wants us to just find an administrator, and I'd be, okay, if you think that's appropriate for that particular client, go off and do it. But I really fought being generalist, and it was foolish, because actually it ended up being 50% of our turnover. But I was very aware that when I went networking, that I had to have a really clear message. You have your elevator pitch with 60 seconds. And if I was just sort of an all things to all people, I just felt I would not be very memorable. So although we were broader, the thought process being, I'm an accountancy recruiter, very, very specific. If something else came of that, we got to know a client and there was other work, then we would, we'd take a view, or we'd take it on board. But to make an impression on people, they need to remember you, and you need to be really, really clear about what you do. And actually, if you don't know what you do, how on earth can you give a clear message? I have to say, I did a lot of networking for 2 years, and I can say there were people in those groups that still couldn't tell you what I did, but I tried. Really clear.
Absolutely. So what questions have we got for Claire then? Come on, guys. I know I was late to the party today, but have you got any questions about...
Can I remember the names of all 6 people in the collaboration? Sorry, Nick.
We got there.
So where do you sort of hope this will grow to then, Claire, with SME Monthly?
Well, there's nothing we all work kind of within a similar geographical area. This is far reaching. This could be approached nationally for people that want, businesses right across the UK that want a bit of support. I think that's good for all of us in terms of exposure. And at the moment it's a monthly email. I mean, if there's real interest in this, there's no reason why that couldn't be expanded to a more frequent basis, building a website for people to find resources. Honestly, Christina, it came to me at like 9 o'clock one morning, and you were all on board by about 10 a.m. and I hadn't given it a lot more thought.
I think that's an interesting point, though, because a lot of people, like you say, we just talked about it, yet fight, flight or freeze. They kind of think, oh, I have a great idea, but they feel like they have to have everything fleshed out and like, well, where am I going with it? What's my plan?
No.
And because they don't, then they just don't go ahead and do it. Whereas
that's right, Amanda. And we've all got to-do lists. I've got to-do lists everywhere, but sometimes things never go off them because we just keep adding to them. And sometimes you just think, if it feels right, just do it. Financially, you have to look at things, but there's no financial outlay, or it's nominal. This just felt right. It's going to be successful, and it's successful entirely because of 6 people who all want to deliver something, and it's not a big ask of any of us because it's stuff we're already doing. And what's quite interesting as a result of it is we've all had to up our game a little bit. Christina, you and your team produce loads of material all the time, but I can't say that's the same for all of us. I did have 1 or 2 emails saying, oh goodness, I really must get my website sorted because it's such a mess. So we needed a lead time of a number of weeks for people to check stuff off their to-do lists. Those were things they needed to do, and this has kind of instigated that change as quickly as possible. Yeah, but yeah, I think you can overthink things. If there's a risk and there's a big financial outlay, then of course I would have took more than 10 minutes to
Do you know, I think sometimes waiting for perfection means that things don't happen. And
there's no such thing, is there?
Well, I think that's the problem, isn't it? You kind of like, you get an idea in your head and you're like, oh, but it needs to be this level before anyone in the world sees it. I'm constantly being told to slow down. Amanda's told me to slow down earlier this week in a conversation. I was like, sorry.
I can't see, but she's making a rude gesture.
Yeah, I did actually filter myself then. I just want a little pat on the back for that one. It's like, if I were to say I had a fear, okay, and not just in business, just a fear generally, it's paralysis. Okay, it's like just the thought of not being able to move or not moving is like, that is my fear. Okay,
yeah, well actually you got me through that, because I had that, I just needed a bit of tech to do the mailer, Christina, and I got a product that I just looked at and I could not. I think I looked at it for about a week. I never moved further forward, and I just thought, what on earth have I done? Because I've committed now, I'm going to let all these people down. But thankfully, little training session from you and a different piece of software, and we're there. But you're right, you kind of go, oh my goodness, and I think I'm an intelligent person. Why can't I work this out? But I couldn't. But there's always help. You just have to ask for it. You have to go to ask for it.
And it's that asking. It's like, so you asked the question. It could have been we all said no. And that's, what have you lost? What would you have lost?
Well, I just lost 5 friendships.
A little bit more than that. Not much. A little bit more.
I was confident because and that sounds really arrogant, but it's not, because one, I thought it was a good idea. I mean, I don't have that many of them, but I thought it was a good idea. And also, we're already doing this kind of stuff. As I said, you wouldn't be. Nobody was going to have to completely change their whole view of the world and think, oh, I've got to produce all these free blogs and videos now and I haven't got time, I'm such a busy person. Because these people, Catherine, I've already had an article from her in my inbox this morning. These are people who are already giving.
Yeah,
it comes naturally. So why wouldn't you want to do it? And do it with another group of people who just, sharing the responsibility. My greatest fear, Christina, is failing. And I just thought, well, at least I'll share the failure with other people.
Thanks. Paul's put in the comments, finding the right experts is important. There's a lot of wannabes out there. And it's so true. I guess it comes back to I've done a course now. I've done a course for 12 weeks. Now I'm an expert. I've gone to a half-day seminar, and now I'm going to build a business on that knowledge.
Yeah, this is going to sound really mean, but I'm going to say it anyway. But I do think that occurs. I think we're past the business card stage, but the networking thing, you go along, somebody had been made redundant, they didn't know what to do, they've set themselves up in a little business and they come networking to meet people. They're not necessarily an expert in that field, they want to try something different, and it's wonderful. But going to the post office and printing off a business card that says you're a marketing expert does not make you a marketing expert. It takes a long time, and also it's not just what you know now. Current are you going to stay? Because in your area of specialism that it's constantly changing. There are new apps and new social media channels, and it's no good just to sit at home and get your head down and work on your current customers without actually having any idea what's going on in the outside world. And that's tricky. You do have to get out there and you have to stay current and you have to know what's coming. And that's really hard. And that doesn't come with just being a self-professed expert from going on a course. Years of experience.
Yeah, Paul's just said that networking is a good way to sort out the wheat from the chaff, and
it is.
I could not agree anymore. It's you don't need to probe someone too much for them to. So if we take the social media world, for example, if you'd have asked, so the week before Christmas, if you'd have asked me about Clubhouse, and in fact somebody did, and my response was, I haven't looked into it yet. I haven't, yes, I know about it. This is the small bit of information I know so far. I haven't delved in. I didn't pretend to know anything. It's like, yes, I'm aware of this thing. Yes, it's new. This is where I'm up to.
Yeah.
Whereas in that situation, when you start having a conversation and they don't know the answer and they're just creating noise, actually, you don't need to have the knowledge yourself to know that it's just crap.
Yeah, I have to say, it's an age thing as well, is it? You can tell when it's bullshit, can't you?
Oh, sorry, put that one down. Emily, you're a oh, we've had a comment saying pretty lady. Thanks, Tony. I'm sure you're probably just spamming us, but we'll take it.
First compliment of the day.
Who's that aimed at? Like, you know which one of us that is.
We'll take it.
Okay, so just to pick up on what you've just said, I'm not sure it is an age thing, So Emily, you're the youngest. I'm going to pick on you because you're quite good at calling people out, and if you don't do it face to face or screen to screen, but I think you certainly go like, Christina, I don't think this person is quite right with what they're saying. I think you're able to.
I'm a wise woman. No, I think I don't know, maybe it's a natural instinct, or through my career, I guess, even from a young age, I've worked in a lot of sort of business corporate environments, and obviously now I work with Green Umbrella. It's a smaller company, but maybe that experience has made me, obviously you get a lot of personalities in big companies and in places like that, so I don't know if maybe that's helped. I don't know, but I think
in big companies, don't you? Because people are hierarchy.
Yeah, exactly. I think so. So I don't know if maybe that's helped, or maybe I'm just naturally wise. I'm not sure. But yeah, I think
it's your circle of influence.
Oh yeah, or that, the people I hang around with. But yeah, I personally think it is quite easy to tell. But then, that being said, maybe something's happened to me and I haven't, and the wool's been pulled over my eyes, and I haven't picked up on it. But I think usually, yeah, I can tell if someone's talking crap or just saying something for the sake of it, basically, I think.
Yeah, much rather somebody said, I don't know and I'll find out, than just...
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
No, don't you? And yeah, it's... I think you lose trust if somebody's had to just...
Christina, you're always very mindful that you don't and we don't call ourselves experts or gurus, because it does change so quickly. There'll be times when we're doing like screen sharing training, and it might be on something like MailChimp, so email marketing, or on Facebook ads. And then you'll go in and you'll go, oh, hang on, they've moved the button, they've moved the menu, these things have changed. and it happens. You know, of course, we don't know about all the changes. And if we think about, you know, even going back 6 to 8 months, everyone was talking about TikTok. Now everyone's talking about Clubhouse, and you kind of think, well, what's going to go? So, yeah, I just don't think you can have experience and you can say, well, look, I'm experienced in this. I've got 20 years experience. I'm coming from a place of knowledge, but yeah, there's going to always be people out there that know just a smidge more than you. It's yeah.
Yeah, but you're being very modest, Amanda, because you are working in it every day. And if they change something, you'll know about it. But because I know what you're saying, but you are that is modesty, because you do know your subject, and keeping on top of it is challenging. But if you're in it and you're working with it every day, and also I think working in a team, because your teammates, whether it's intended or not, you are challenging each other.
Do you know, I think this is the thing, and in fact the call I was on before this, we were talking about when you've got someone that is the face of the business, and people say, you know, I've bought into you, I want to work with you, and you're like, yeah, but I've got a team of fantastic people here. And the reality is, yes, you know, Amanda and I, we go out, we do the presentations and everything else, but when I'm trying to do something on Instagram and I can't work it out, it's Emily that I message. If I need to do something on Facebook ads this afternoon and I hit a brick wall, I'm messaging Jane. Have you come up against this problem recently? And it's like, although we're the fonts, if you like, we're there with our megaphones, actually it's the information is coming from the team as a whole.
Yeah, because that morning went into that device or whatever that for the first time that day, and it changed overnight. So your colleague's now the expert over you. But but that's the nature, and that's why it's really important to get experts involved when you want to do something well. If you don't you have to accept that you don't have the skill yourself, the skill and the capability, because unless you're in it all the time, every day, and learning, you're always going to be behind.
Yeah. Absolutely. Right, I am going to draw this to a close. We've had a really, really, I've loved this conversation. I always love our chats, Claire, anyway. So I'm just really, really pleased to be able to bring you in, because I know, like Jane and Emily, I don't think you've ever, might have previously at team events, but Jane, definitely, I know you won't have had.
Yeah.
I'm connected to you on LinkedIn though, so I must have come across you.
Well, this is it. People feel familiar, don't they? We're like celebrities within our own kind of network, because I know your face, and of course I've jumped on these and had a look, and I go on webinars and things where you appear. Amanda and I have met in the past. We were just saying actually before we went live that, you know, normally we would have bumped into each other at an event in 2020, which we didn't, so it's all kind of strange, but yeah, it's nice, isn't it, just to
we're all mini influencers, that's what it is.
Yes.
I got called an influencer over the weekend. I'm like, I'm an influencer, somebody said that. Anyway, I need to wrap this up, because I'm actually on another live stream at 1 o'clock in
thank you very much, it's been delighted to be here.
Absolutely. So look out for SME Monthly in your inbox. We've dropped the link in the comments. Jane, if you can hop on LinkedIn and put the link in there as well for people to register, to make sure that they're receiving it as well. It's going to be, you know, the first issue is packed with value, and I just know it's just going to grow and grow and grow. So I'm really pleased to be part of it, and feel privileged to have been asked, Claire. So thank you.
Wonderful. It's a joy. Thank you very much.
In the meantime, have a fantastic week, everyone, and we will see you next week, Thursday at 12. It will just be the Green Umbrella team talking about whatever's happened over the last couple of weeks, social media-wise, and giving you some updates on that kind of stuff. So we'll see you then, and in the meantime, we'll do the little wave. So Claire, wave as well, sweetly, so we can take a screenshot.
Thank you. I can't go